Wins, victories. We got pizza being offered on listings that are taken, so the rest of you top that.
All right.
Victories, wins,
Who's giving out the pizza again?
or just overall gratitude. What was that?
Who's giving out the pizza again?
And for every referral you give me, I'll give you a pizza. Guaranteed.
I'll give you 2.
I'll include. Okay, so I'm glad that we were able to start off this meeting on things that we cannot do in the real estate industry.
Right.
Because for every referral you get a pizza, and here you
I
get
was talking
2,
to this agent.
would
Well,
be
you don't advertise
a
that.
solicited referral. And we all know that we cannot solicit for referrals.
We don't
So
advertise
thank you very
that.
much for those 2 examples on what we cannot do. That is what I love starting off things with.
You don't advertise it, you just do it. Just say it wrong.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That got you, Rob.
And this is being recorded, right? We got this down, right? Well,
Rob, I am grateful for those who show up in the morning. We've heard it before, but it really is where the rubber hits the road. And I'm particularly grateful for Ruby really leveraging it every morning and helping me with that. So thank you.
is this going to be another Ruby Mormon?
It could be.
Oh.
It's well deserved.
No, right.
So,
I mean, it's so much nicer knowing that we have everybody come in the morning and have, people who are willing to go ahead and just work through a lot of these difficult objection handling techniques.
absolutely. Thank you.
You know, it's because of these meetings. Yesterday I was able to set 6 appointments.
Wow.
And get 2 presentations. But it's because of this. You strengthen your skills every morning,
Absolutely.
and you're able to do great things if you're willing to do what is necessary.
Absolutely. So I'll even return on both of you, for both of you, even what you're doing.
Thank you.
And Rick, the consistency of getting this started on that. So thank you. It set the foundation for it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thought I saw a hand somewhere. Maybe not.
I'm just always grateful for opportunities, just in general, because if you don't take advantage of those, people think others are lucky and things just fall into their lap. It isn't that way. You just have to be open and watch, and just all kinds of opportunities are out there. Just have to open your eyes.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
I was just thinking a lot about what Chris said yesterday. He ended by saying, processes creates confidence, and I didn't have as good of a day as Evan did yesterday. Mine was quite different than that. It wasn't a good day, but I did what I was supposed to do, and I was where I was supposed to be, and I'm confident today. I'm not beat up from yesterday's experiences, and I think it's because I've got faith in the process that even though I didn't get the results yesterday, I'm here today, and I know that the results are going to follow.
Well, that leads into something, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but this has a little bit of a transition. What you're talking about is also things that an environment that provides either some consistency, provides time when you may not be at your best, but you're able to come to an environment that's going to help get you out of that, you want to say funk, when you're not your strongest, and you can come here to be rebuilt. And that's one of the things that you said that drew you back. Of course, we're going to have highs and lows, and oftentimes when we're at the high, we may think we don't need anything else like this anymore, and we go and look for other sources. Then all of a sudden, when we start going off of the top of the roller coaster, we start going down, and then it's left to ourselves to oftentimes pick ourselves up. And you were saying that was one of the reasons what drew you back. But
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so for me, I needed a major checkup from the neck up, as George says.
Yeah.
So I was, in a 7-year kind of thing where I didn't have the morning meetings and the leadership here that's provided. So it's easy to take it for granted if you're here, but you go to any other brokerage, it's just, there's not that support, and really, all the 4 of them, 5 counting you, but just pushing me to grow, because it's so easy just to sit down in my office and say, okay, well, I'm busy, but to get up here and do the role plays and come to the meetings and do the things, take us out of our comfort zone, that's where we see the growth.
absolutely. Chris.
I just wanted to tell in with that. The reason, if I didn't go over it enough yesterday, the reason you give yourself to the process and do the things we talked about, you should be doing, deep down, you should be doing when you don't feel like it or you don't believe you can or whatever it is, the reason you do it anyways, you give yourself a chance to find out what you're truly capable of. Usually we don't even start and we don't find out what we're capable of because we don't start and stick to it.
Love that.
So yeah, you're more than capable. Love that.
I was gonna hold this to myself, but it's along the lines of what everybody's saying. But I've never been told so many times in my life how fouled up my head is, and I've never been so grateful to hear that, hey, what you're thinking is just a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? And it's like, and Rick, I'm just gonna call you out because he knows this about me and he loves me and he goes, Facet, get it out of your head because you're full of crap. You don't know what you're even thinking. And so do something different. And if it wasn't for that, I'd be out of this business already easily. And I have friends that started the same time I did from school and they are out of the business. They already have part-time jobs because they're not here and they don't have people going, your mental ability is not where it needs to be. Start thinking different things and start realizing that people are not the way. And I'm not saying everybody's as fouled up as I am, but 90% of all agents have a mental blockage somewhere.
Some of us might even be more.
There you go. Some might be more, doubt it. But I mean, every agent has some mental blockage that they need to work on. If no one's there to tell you that your brain doesn't work correctly, you're not going to fix it.
Love you, Matt.
Thank you.
It's funny. That's actually one of my gratitudes today. Is just like good coaches, and that's all a coach is. It's basically challenges your thinking, right? And it just shakes up your mind, gets you to think about things a little bit differently. Continue to think the same way, you're just gonna get the exact same results.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have a gratitude today with Veterans Day coming up. I see a lot of people on the road and they don't look like happy, like they're driving to work. But in this country, we can choose where we want to go to work. And I love that. I mean, if we lived in North Korea or Cuba or wherever, we'd be told what to do, either by family or the government. And, the veterans who have defended or now defend this country, I am so grateful for them. Evan, Paul, your son, whoever else in the room, thank you.
Absolutely.
It means a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Couple of quick announcements or reminders. If you haven't seen a couple of emails that are going out, I want to say it's the 14th of this month. The annual Realtor luncheon that's done. It's held every year down. Normally it's held at the Little America. This year we've got 400 more seats because it always sells out. They'll be at the Grand America. I believe it's going to check your email. The registration will appear, I believe it appears on the 14th. Sorry, and the luncheon I think is December 6th. But you'll have, it's usually sold out within the first hour to 2 hours. I know there's a couple of you that get there every single time, but make sure you have the opportunity of doing that. So look for that email. And then the other thing is there is a mandatory, now state required mandatory 3-hour training that goes in effect. And so if there's any of you in here, I'm one of them, where your license is due at the end of January, your renewal, you'll have to take that class before you renew. So I know that I've gone and gotten certified we're getting certified to teach it. So we'll be doing that throughout the year. Just make sure you're aware of that as the year is approaching.
Rob, are you guys going to do that before the end of the year?
If we get the certification,
Okay.
that'll be there. And that's the intent, yes. Otherwise, there is even the Solid Board is offering one of the classes. I think it's only one particular day, and it's in the first part of January. So, but just know that there is a mandatory class that everybody has to take, and it starts this upcoming year. So,
Going back to the lunch. Was it luncheon?
the luncheon.
Yeah. What's the?
It's a
What are like the benefits of going to that?
Brenda Lee's one.
Well, on the 14th at 10 o'clock, I actually put it in my notes, but we're major donors, so I got the notice that I'm invited anyway, and that's why it fills up so quickly.
What do you mean by you're a major donor? First, go with
Oh,
that.
for RPAC.
Okay.
So anyone that donates
Anyone who
to RPAC,
donates as a major donor, it's $1,000 contribution that you're doing. You automatically get invited and enrolled to this event. But it's a recognition, kind of an awards luncheon that occurs. So the top 500, so it's the top 500 luncheon now that just started last year. That award based on your production, you're able to go and for that as well. Then it's the introduction to the next Salt Lake Board president. There's a couple things that they'll do. They'll have an economist that'll be there annually that they go through what the upcoming stuff is. So it's very knowledgeable. It's very good. I mean, they've had, I believe in the past, it's 800 seats is what the capacity roughly was, and I'm telling you, it sells out every single time. So now we're going over the Grand America, and I think we now have 1,200 seats that are there. So it's good. I mean, try to be there if you can, and I would encourage it. So, okay. I want to transition on thought. Tell me some thoughts that come to your mind when you think, well, first off, who has not heard of the 80-20 rule? I'm assuming, and of course, there'd be one or two that probably haven't, and they're not going to raise their hands, so that's a great question to start off with. I'm assuming everyone has heard of the 80-20 rule. Give me somebody help me out what that is.
80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients.
Okay. Typically, that's the typical response from it. And another thought.
Yeah, same thing. You could be like, well, 80% of my problems come from 20% of my listings.
Okay.
Like, it continues to go on, right? Yeah.
Okay, so exactly. 80% of stuff that comes from certain things and 20% of it from the opposite. So, these are the core examples. 80% of the realtors in the industry probably are not doing very much business. The other 20% are doing the majority of the business, right? Or we spend 80% of our time on things that may not be productive versus 20% of our time and effort on the things that are productive. Okay? What are some other thoughts that come to mind when you think of that rule?
80% of everything that happens in your life is affected by 20% of what you're doing.
I love that. It's great.
Grand scheme.
I think I read recently that what's the name of that theory? Yeah, it's from an Italian who he first discovered it when he found out that 20% of the people in Italy owned 80% of the land. And then he started applying that to a lot of other areas. And so that's one way to look at it too.
Fantastic. I love it. Interesting. I love it. Any other thoughts? So when you think of this 80-20 rule, that's something that we've heard many, many times before. And now we think of the word perfection. When someone refers to people as a perfectionist, is that referred to as a positive statement or is it a negative statement? Okay. Usually it's negative. Obviously you can find positives in everything, but typically as a perfectionist, they refer that to kind of as a negative statement, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Never gets anything done because he's too busy perfecting it.
Okay. So
perfection
maybe
is
he's unwilling to actually get started because he's got to perfect the steps necessary to be able to get it done right. Okay, true. Brendan.
I'd say perfection is 100%.
Okay.
And it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
But I still think perfection is a positive thing. I strive for
Like
that.
I said, it can
It
be.
doesn't go negative.
It can be.
Yeah.
And why would it be positive versus negative?
Because you've got, you're closer to the 100%.
Let me maybe give this type of an example is like, let's say whatever our goal is this year, okay? Let's just keep things simple. It's going to be $100,000. That's our goal. Whatever it is for you, for somebody else, doesn't matter. Just so we can all be on the same page. Our goal is to make $100,000, and we made $99,900. Did we hit our goal?
No.
We didn't hit our goal, did we? Did we do pretty well?
No.
Okay. So perfectionists, if they're a true on perfectionist, where they, unless they hit that goal, dang it, I did not do this, they're going to treat it kind of in that negative facet, right? Versus if you look at the other side, the positive elements of it, you know what, if I didn't set a goal to begin with, I may have only achieved $70,000. And the fact that I set a goal, the fact that I was there, I was so close to hitting the goal, and it kept me more positive throughout the year. I was $100 short from it. So it was a great thing. In my definition, what I think of perfectionists, the way that my definition would be more of that individual. Unless they hit that goal, they did not succeed. But that doesn't mean that if you look at the positive element of it, which I personally wouldn't define as a perfectionist, it would be like, I'm going to strive to do this, and it's going to guide me in the direction of achieving more than if I hadn't. Does that make sense?
What I used to use, and I loved, I think it was Vince Lombardi that said that if you chase perfection, you'll catch excellence along the way. Because you can't be perfect.
Right. I love that.
But I love it. So you want to set your goals here, but this is what you're going to catch. This is how you're going to
Make that statement again.
I love that.
Said if you chase perfection, you'll catch excellence along the way.
I mean, that really sums it up.
Right.
Is not losing sight of what it is that you're trying to accomplish by focusing on, are you focusing on the 80, or are you focusing on 20, whatever's there. Let me give a,
Can you say that one more time?
If you chase perfection, you'll catch excellence
Along
the way.
let me give a different story of a man who had applied this 80-20 rule in business and in his personal life. So just bear with me for a second, kind of as share a little bit of the story. So this man, father, like I said, he applied this 80-20 rule in his home. And so even his children understood what was meant by the 80-20 rule. Well, they had this barn that over time had really gotten cluttered with stuff, dirty, just over time, like garages often happen. When you got a 3-car garage and you can't even put a bike in a garage, you know, that ends up being a heck of a storage unit, doesn't it? Well, this particular barn had developed some things that were like that as well. On the bottom level, it had all of the bunch of the storage, a true barn where they had tractors, they had storage equipment for large areas of land, and then up above it, it was more kind of like a you could say mother-in-law apartment, an exercise area, and it was a nicer place. Well, they had the dad went to the family and just said, look, hey guys, we're going to tackle cleaning this barn, and we're going to truly apply an 80-20 principle to it. But they made the 80 being focused on the positive side of it. We know that we got a lot of work here we're going to do. We're going to set a time. We're only going to work for 3 hours, whatever the number was. And in that 3 hours, our goal is to accomplish 80% of the task of getting this thing cleaned. And we'll save the other 20% for a later day. Okay, but we're going to only do this for 3 hours. This isn't an all-day project, isn't an all-weekend project. We're going to focus for 3 hours, and we're going to do as much as we can, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get 80% of the work done within that time frame. And children had all this buy-in. They're excited. Okay, great. And when we're done, we'll go celebrate. We'll go do something to go make it happen. So during this time frame, half of the kids were working on in the downstairs area, and the dad was working up above, getting everything done. And sure enough, You know, the dad never went downstairs. The kids never went upstairs to see each other's progress. But the 3 hours had lapsed and everybody appeared to be working the entire time. And so at the end of the 3 hours, the dad walks downstairs and he sees all this clutter of stuff right next to the stairs. And first thought that came to his mind was, what the crap? What is all of this garbage and everything right here? Was anything even done? And could not move away from just focusing on all of this stuff. And began to get upset at his children. And in the process of doing that, the children just froze. And they could tell that dad was upset. And in doing that, the dad began to see everything else and how much progress had been made. And seeing the entire bottom level basically completely cleaned up. And you could see that everything that those children had done in that 3-hour window, they felt was completely unappreciated. Because the dad focused on the 20%, the 5%, whatever it was, and totally forgot about the other 80. Fortunately, the father realized quickly what had just happened. And he started realizing, do I want to be the person who's going to focus on, in this case, 20% being the small stuff and the 80% being the other? Do I want to be the one that's going to be focusing on the negative, focusing on that the small things, and abandoning everything that has been good? Or to vice versa, immediately apologized to his children, sat back and just said, I don't want to be that guy. And started applying that own principle in his own life. So this example that made me, what I want to think about it is, yes, we typically do think of the 80-20, meaning 80% of the stuff that we do is the stuff we shouldn't be focusing on instead of the 20. But I also want you to think of the whole idea of perfection. We all want to accomplish our goals, and and this is not a message of don't underachieve. No, that is not the message here. I want you to set your goals and set them high, because if you set a goal that you set only because I know I can obtain that, in my opinion, you have not set the goal high enough. If you're so afraid of not hitting that goal because you're the perfectionist, that I have to hit my $100,000. Because if I only hit $99,900, I failed. So I'm going to set my goal at $90,000 so I can succeed. If that is how you plan your life or set your goals, you are setting your bar not high enough. It's too low. Because if you set that goal at 150, and the best you've ever done is 90, and you achieve 130, even though you didn't achieve your goal, but you achieve $40,000 better than you've ever done before, is that not better than setting it at the 90 and you get 92? Are we focusing on the wrong things? Perfectionism can have positive spin-off of it. It can drive the right behavior, and I love that quote. But if we're focusing on what it takes to get there at all costs and losing sight of the purpose of what we're doing, we're not going to be who we truly need to be. Does that make sense? Focus on what it's going to take to get there, and then work every single day. There were several things that were talked about today that bring this up. Mike's example of yesterday having a terrible day, but today you're here in the right mindset to be able to move forward. That's what helps us achieve what we're trying to achieve. We're not perfect, but are we taking the steps necessary to become as perfect as possible? Okay? Any thoughts? Comments?
Yeah, I just had one thought. I've been reading The Greatest Salesman in the World by and there's a specific chapter in there that has a quote about, setting your goals really high. And he says, it's better that I aim for the moon and shoot only an eagle than aim for an eagle and only hit a rock.
Exactly.
And that was really powerful for me to think, like, it's better to set my standards high and hit just below that than to, like you said, aim lower and only hit that. I mean, you're just pushing yourself so much more. And really, there's no reason to be scared that you're not going to hit that goal because it's going to take you so much farther than if you aim lower.
And the principle applies in every aspect of it. Let's just say you set your goal that I'm going to prospect for 3 hours. And when I say that, I am going to prospect for 3 hours. I'm not going to put a clock of 3 hours and then go talk to my friend for 70% of it. No, I'm going to prospect for 3 hours. Stuff can happen. Let's just say the longest you've ever done that before has consistently been 30 minutes or an hour. Well, now you say you're going to prospect for 3 hours, so it is completely above what you've ever done before. And you hit 80% of that. What is it? 2 hours and 20 minutes roughly? 2 hours and almost 2.5 hours? Almost doubling what you may have ever done before. So you hit 80% of what you said you were going to do. If you did set your goal twice what you've ever accomplished, and you hit 80% of that, blowing your old number out of the water just would be the 80%. So it can be powerful when you start thinking about the right things versus focusing on the things that are going to take you away from it. Here in a moment, we'll end up.
Okay. Well, so put me as myself in a vulnerable position. Like I could be pretty hard on myself for my goals this year. I mean, to put in percentages, this year I'm projected to hit 62% of my goal, and that could be upsetting, right? And then if you look at it from positive spin, I increased my income from last year by 66%.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I could focus on, man, I hit this goal and I was working so hard and I believed I could do it and I didn't hit it, or I could think, look how far I've come and how much,
The year's not over, and you could end up being at 80%.
Right, exactly.
And look how amazing that would be. I mean, you've already identified it. I'm not saying that we want to achieve those goals, absolutely. But you're 60% better this year than you were last year, and you're not where you want to be. So guess what? That's the reason why you're here.
Right.
And you're not sitting and you're just sleeping in bed.
Right.
Because you still want to do more. Love that. Okay? Any other thoughts? All right, let's go ahead and finish it off here.